Gavin Newsom and the state of California make good on their promise to fight the Trump administration at every turn. We saw a special session about this at the end of last year, and they have just filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration on tariffs. The question is, in what ways does this affect the Second Amendment movement and the way that California can fight against it? Let's talk about it. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel today. A little bit more of an ambiguous question, but I think a question that we should explore nonetheless. Of course, we have seen Gavin Newsom and the state of California announce their lawsuit against Trump on these tariffs. But to talk us through that today, we have brought back our legislative director of CRPA, that is Rick Travis. You can also find him on the Firing Line radio show every Saturday at 1 p.m. That's on AM 590 The Answer. Rick, thanks for being with us today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So let's just go ahead and check out Gavin Newsom's announcement. He did a short about it. The hair is greasy as ever. Jacob, let's take a look.
Announced today a new lawsuit against the Trump administration. He does not have the right under the International Economic Emergency Power Act to impose these tariffs. We're not going to stand back, and we're not going to continue to get rolled, particularly industries like agriculture, a $48 billion a year industry here in the state of California, largest manufacturing state in America, $412 billion a year in economic output. The impact these tariffs, these taxes are having on industries that are export dependent, particularly industries like the almond industry. Almonds, pistachios, and dairy alone in the state of California represent 43% of our exports to Mexico, Canada, and China. California is going to court to make sure the Trump administration backs down.
I mean, let's be really honest. They said from the legislature and from Gavin Newsom's office at the beginning of the year, they did a special session about this at the end of last year, that they were going to oppose everything that they could that Trump put out. So, I mean, he literally could have created a program to give puppies to babies, and California would be going to court about it. But Rick, I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on this before we start addressing any questions that might affect the Second Amendment movement here in California. Being up at the Capitol as much as you are, do you see, is this causing any kind of a stir? Is there any kind of change in sentiment that you're seeing from legislators up in Sacramento now that this is going on?
Yeah, I mean, not everybody is on board. I mean, and I hear comments all the time. Gavin Newsom is a chameleon. He says out one side of his mouth, let's get oil, big oil, everything oil out of California. And yet no one puts more oil on the top of his head than Gavin Newsom. So, I mean, this is what we see all the time. He says one thing, does another. He doesn't want us to be able to go out with our kids and use, an AR-15/M4 platform. Yet with his son Hunter, multiple reports he's done that, and done it in such a way that for a lot of us might not be considered California legal. But beyond that, look, the governor and Bonta love to see themselves as trying to help business. This tariff war thing that they're trying to do against the Trump administration is an absolute joke, because as you heard, his whole reason is, I'm here to protect California business. Yeah, well, then why is it the Chamber of Commerce and a lot of the people aren't out there clapping for you right now? Oh, it's because your taxation policies, your failed policies to keep people taken care of with benefits, the benefits war, the insurance war, I could go down the list, are all killing business in California. It's why businesses are leaving California. So to go after Trump on this tariff war issue and go, look how brave we're being, look what we're doing. Well, okay. So fine, tomorrow Trump ends the tariffs. Businesses are still leaving California, and it has nothing to do with the president. It has to do with you, Governor Newsom, and your failed policies. And that's what we're seeing across the board. And there's, since the fires in Southern California have now joined that community to the people who have lost everything in Northern California, big ag, a whole host of issues going on in this state because it's falling apart. There's a lot of legislators who are walking very carefully. Now, one of the ironies I find is both Bonta and the governor love to point out, like, hey, be really, really careful. I mean, one of the little games he played this week was he went and bought a bunch of burner phones, put his personal cell phone number in them, and sent them to different business leaders and said, "Hey, if you have issues with the president, call me." And he was so proud when he touted this on his social media. He said, "I did this because, well, the president, if you're on the wrong side of him, he'll hold that against you." Pot calling the kettle black. No one is more vindictive and more mean than Governor Newsom when you disagree with him.
Yeah, and I think some of these points that you're making as far as laws and regulations that are driving businesses out of California, I haven't exactly seen him resist any legislation that's going after these FFLs in California, which is forcing a lot of them to either shut down or to try to take their business to other states. So definitely within the 2A community feeling that way as well. But then there's this other kind of glaring question that we talked about earlier this year that sort of stares in the face. Either way, if you're going to consider what Newsom is saying here and that tariffs are going to essentially remove a lot of money from California and California businesses, or the other way around, which is California is now going to be investing a lot of money in legal battles, where exactly does that leave their operation to fight Second Amendment advocates in the courts in California? Do you see any of this perhaps diverting attention and labor away from other fights like the Second Amendment, or does that end up remaining resolute?
I think it's going to remain for the most part resolute. There are some dynamic changes that are happening in that space. We have to see how long they last. I mean, right now, money from like USAID has been cut off by the Trump administration. The net result was we knew this was going to happen. It was going to take time because people have money in the coffers. But we just saw David Hogg, who is very big now in the um, Democratic Party. He comes out of the Everytown movement, and Everytown has had to lay off a lot of lawyers and a lot of key people at the top because they're not getting that money from USAID anymore. They're not able to pay their volunteer protesters like they've been able to pay in the past. So their reach and their power and their ability to buy favors is diminished. And so now it's going to be interesting because politicians are already running for the 26th election. We see it up and down the state. And so they're looking for money. And that well is drying up fast that our opposition has had. So now I think our voices will be heard more. We've also at CRPA pumped up the amount of times we're in the Capitol with volunteers from around the state coming with our message, putting things out. So that has changed a great deal. And as a result, we're seeing more and more pushed forward that is making a difference.
Well, is there any other sort of connection here? I mean, as Newsom continues to spend political capital, probably political capital that a lot of people would consider he doesn't really have anymore. Do you see any shit? I mean, Rick, you were. I was there with you on Capitol Day. That huge protest out in front of the swing space. The majority of those signs had Gavin Newsom's picture with a circle and a cross going through it. So it's glaringly obvious that not very many people are happy with him at this point. Does that translate at all to legislators when they are, or at least referring to the willingness that they are to get on board with his agenda?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things you have to look at is Gavin does not have the pull that he had a couple of years ago to try to influence elections. He still has money, like he has significant money, but the question is like, he could be like a Jerry Brown that as Jerry Brown left politics, Jerry Brown took his campaign coffers and diverted money to other candidates that he thought would carry on his legacy. Gavin isn't done trying to build his legacy. He is looking at the White House. And so as a result, politicians know there's not going to be money coming from the Newsom train that they've enjoyed in the past. That coupled with his alienation of several large political groups and a change in the voter dynamic, we're seeing more and more people in different minority groups. We're starting to hear the truth. Wow. In Sacramento. And one of those is, Kevin, you and I are not the majority. Latinos have been the majority for 25 years, and they are pushing that button. They're coming out. We have a very different legislature. The legislature, when I first came up to work a couple decades ago, it was primarily guys that were running the different offices. Women are now the major voice. And that has a dynamic change in what's going on. There are many, many factors that are coming into play. And I also feel like the electorate has woken up to a degree here in California. We got to keep the pressure on to keep them awake. We got to get our community to keep that pressure on. But, people are talking about public safety and, there's varying ideas on how that's achieved, but I think it was made very clear by the electorate in the last election, no more favoring criminals over law-abiding citizens. There are some in the legislature that woke up to that fact, and so votes are much different than they've been. We, it's really sad. I could go on about some of the things I'm witnessing happening from the Public Safety Committee to others, Kevin, but it's a very different dynamic and battlefield than we've had in quite some time.
Well, having said that, I guess to answer the ambiguous question, we will likely see the same stalwart approach that the state of California continues to put up with the legislature and with litigation that we have when it comes to fighting against the pro-Second Amendment advocates that we have working in the state. But we also do have that resistance that is consistently there. We've got some stuff coming up. What are your final thoughts on this approach by Newsom, and what do you see coming down the pike here in the legislature?
Well, I mean, obviously, this is the weird thing. It does cost the taxpayer, but to the state officials, it costs them nothing to go to court. Like we have staff. Staff goes to court. Like that's just what we do. Whereas for groups like ours and others and regular everyday, Joes and Janes that are running their businesses, their homes, when you go to sue the government, it is a significant amount of money out of your pocket. And it's frustrating as hell because it's also the money out of your tax dollars that is fighting you. And that's one of the most annoying things in this. Right now, we have a governor and a few politicians that are fighting to preserve their legacy against the Second Amendment. That's just straight up the facts. And so as a result, they're pulling everything out, whether we're looking at Berman's bill, where he wants to take us from 1 a month after the court said you can't do the 1 a month club. That doesn't work. That's not constitutional. And so instead of saying, okay, leave it alone, well, how about 3 a month? And if we defeat 3 a month and a judge says that, he'll go, well, what about 2.5 or 4.7? Like they don't want to let go because the let go is to admit defeat. And so as long as, even though we defeat him on 1 gun a month, he doesn't want to let that go because he doesn't have to admit defeat. He can still say he's fighting. And so, we're going to be seeing that. But what we have to do is keep up the pressure. What we can't do is say, well, forget this and leave. This is a 15-round prize fight. We have been on the advantage since the Bruin decision. We're going to have to keep knocking down. I said it with you a couple of years ago when Bruin came down in 22. Look, this is our midway, but we're going to have to fight for every island. And the cool thing is we're winning island by island to take back our area. But we still got a couple more years of the war to go. And so we just need everyone to hang tight and keep pushing back.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I remember you saying that, and it has certainly stuck with me. This is a battle that will continue to be waged so long as we have, the elected class creating laws with the supermajority that they have in the state. What about coming down? As far as the legislature is concerned for the rest of the year. I mean, we're on a recess now. We go until what, August? Anything that you see coming up here that we're going to be pushing towards?
Yeah, we're pushing along a lot of bills, and just to help everybody remember, as I say to you all the time, there's really not that many surprises in the Capitol. It's just people forget the seasonality of the Capitol. So we'll come back from the recess. It's going to be fast and furious because they have till basically the end of the month, first part of May, to get all the bills in the House of Origin. So if it's the Assembly bill in the Assembly, Senate bill in the Senate, move to the other house, which means they're trying to get everything out of committees. There's going to be a lot of things that will die in suspense where money, support, etc., won't happen. So we'll see a flurry of dead bills across the board, not just in our space, that will happen in mid-May. And then we move to the other house, and then it's another fight in that house, going back and forth through committees, trying to get things done. A lot of trading and game playing in the background that we're not a part of, and a lot of pressure that we will be a part of. And that will bring us to the July 18th recess date, and then we recess for summer from July 18th to August 18th, which is this long lull where nothing's happening in the Capitol. Everybody's gone. They're in their districts prepping for election. And then what will happen is we'll come back for 2 weeks of fast and furious committee meetings where we will be up there. I'll be living there pretty much. And then it goes to the governor's desk. And then we see what the governor does with a whole host of bills. And that's the tale of the tape. And we can lobby the governor, we can do things, but for the most part, that map is fairly set by that point. And then the governor comes out and starts to look at his last year in office, which he'll be a really lame duck at that point. We'll have, a Senate and Assembly looking at the second half of their session and also kicking off their elections on January 1 for the Assembly to get reelected, and also a good chunk of the Senate to seek a second term.
Well, I guess which means it's also time to get the one-click politics activated. You guys, if you are subscribed to the CRPA emails, you should be getting emails on one-click politics, which allows you to connect directly with the legislator that represents you, and with just a couple clicks of the button, send them an opposition or a support letter. Actually, Jacob, maybe we can put the link to the landing page that has all of our campaigns on it. Guys, check that out in the description below. You can see the past campaigns that we've advocated for, but keep checking back, bookmark that page, because as time goes along, we're going to be putting more and more campaigns on that landing page, and you can directly advocate from there. Otherwise, subscribe to the email and you'll get them that way. But Rick, I know it is a busy time for you looking to come back from this recess. I want to thank you for coming on and sharing with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And guys, if you want to continue seeing content like this, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to these videos. It really helps get the information out as far and wide as possible. And it's a great way for you to directly contribute to the Second Amendment litigation and legislative efforts here in the state of California. Thanks again, guys, and we'll see you in the next one.